Welcome to Share.care, an all-inclusive community sharing experience, strength, and hope to create strong, healthy, and inspiring relationships. Share.care communities work toward every individual feeling safe, valued, and heard, free from the threat of danger, pain, or harm. Each episode, founder Damian Andrews explores the principles underpinning Share.care and invites expert special guests to share their knowledge so you can easily reap the benefits so many others experience. You hold the choice to create your future. Let it be with strong, healthy, and inspiring relationships.
Hello and welcome to the Share.care podcast. Our belief is that global peace starts at home. Feeling safe, valued, and heard gives you a foundation to confidently step out and make the world a happier and safer place for everyone. Because in today's world, it's in your own selfish best interest to help others. Now, today we have Steve Sandor as our special guest. Steve is the CEO and a business performance strategist of Inspiring Business. He helps business owners get back to doing the things that they love to be with the ones they love, guiding them through the maze to a sustainable and profitable business that they love and one that does not rely on them. He also hosts the podcast Inspiring Businesses. Welcome, Steve.
Yeah, good morning, afternoon. I'm not sure where you're listening from, but Damien, it's good to be here.
Yeah, likewise. It's great to have you on the show. And yeah, it is morning for me too. So, and I'm sure whenever people are listening, well, it'd be any time of the day. So good morning, evening, night, whatever it is that you're listening to at the time. Steve, do you want to start? You want to tell me a bit about your background, the challenges that you faced that have led you to doing what you do now?
Yeah, thanks, Damien. How long have we got?
We might do this in a 2 or 3. Well,
yeah.
Energise are the big thing now. So
we were talking about how long is this going to take, but so as I grew up in a migrant family in Sydney. My parents were Hungarian, so it was a really interesting, humble beginning that I had when I started. And my first job was an electrician, believe it or not. My dad said, if you're not going to go to university, and he was a lawyer in a previous life, he said, if you're not going to go to university, learn something useful, right? And so I became an electrician. And I moved and I ran unsuccessfully ran a small electrical contracting business for a couple of years as a 22-year-old, but then got into sales and migrated out of the electrical contracting engineering world into financial services in the 80s. And that's a natural transition, right? Like, just why wouldn't you go from there? And we wonder why we had the Royal Commission into finance, right? But what I did was I migrated into Citibank as a commission salesperson for their mortgages, and then got into management. And because I was a qualified financial planner, they put me into a superannuation product that was evolving, right? So I built really good, strong relationships with financial planning communities and was well recognized in that world. And then I got headhunted to American International Group, and they wanted a change manager. And I wasn't sure what that was, but the position was a national sales manager. And it was the dream job. Like, 32-year-old, this was, had the car, the corner office, the salary that would pay off 3 mortgages in a month. It was just horrible. It was fantastic. But I was a little surprised that they gave me the job, because I'd never managed a large team before. I'd had 3 people working for me.
Yeah.
But it was what they wanted was the energy that I had, or the systems and processes that I'd been able to develop in the other financial world. And 3 months in, I realized that I had no idea what I was doing. My boss said, go and kick heads, and I did. Um,
That would have been
and
popular.
brilliant, right? And not being my normal style, I was awkward at it as well, right? Just not practiced at being a dickhead.
Yeah.
Um, but in 6 months, 12 months down the track, they realized also that I had no idea what I was doing, and I got sacked, right?
Yeah.
And as a 32-year-old, you have a lot of hubris at that stage. It wasn't me,
Yeah.
not my fault. All the excuses that you go back to your friends
Just
and tell
32
them.
years old.
Yeah. So it wasn't all the rubbish that you create to defend your position. But what
Yeah.
bothered me most of all was that as I was leaving, very few people came up and wished me well. Right, I had really annoyed that many, pissed everybody off.
Yeah.
So it was at that point, my wife and I, we were incubating our first child. We had an opportunity to go overseas and live overseas,
Yeah.
and we did that. And during that period of time, it was when I did a lot of reading around emotional intelligence
Yeah.
and business and how to behave, how to win friends and influence people.
Yeah.
Major impact in how I saw myself and how other people saw me during that period of time. So I came back from overseas and got a job in financial services again,
Mm-hmm.
and um, made a commitment to myself that I would never behave like that again. And that really was my emotional intelligence, starting of my emotional intelligence journey.
Yeah.
Fast forward 30 years.
Mm.
I spent the last 10 years in Papua New Guinea
Okay.
as a human resource consultant. I could barely spell HR when I went up there. But I learnt the trade of being a human resource consultant, and we had lots and lots of clients in the top 50 businesses in Papua New Guinea. I was very fortunate to work with a prestigious human resource company. My job when I first went up there was to help the business owner corporatize the business,
Yeah.
even though it had been there for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And at the end of that 7-year period with them, I was recruited to an organization and then spent 18 months there and then another 10 months in another organization as a general manager of general manager status. That's where I was. And it was in both of those jobs where I was able to create a safe space for my employees and the people that I had charge of. And I use that word deliberately.
Yeah.
They were in my charge. I was responsible for their behavior. Well, sorry, not responsible for their behavior. I was responsible for their output. And in Papua New Guinea, if you've got a white face, you're not very well trusted
Yeah.
because of colonial behaviors in the past. So I had a lot of things to overcome
Yeah.
to gain their trust. But I'm very proud to say that that I was able to do that. And when I left both those organisations, there were tears,
Yeah.
and they were good tears.
Yeah.
They were tears of joy, because what I had left behind was the antithesis of what I'd done, 32 years before. So I came back from Papua New Guinea. COVID hit. I took about 12 months off to figure out what it was that I was going to do when I grew up, and I started inspiring business. And I work with now smaller type businesses because I figured that was my genius. I was working in that smaller groups, 10 to 50 type groups, even though they were inside large organizations,
Yeah.
and helping them. And so that's what I'm doing now.
Wow. How much of it, like from that perspective, I mean, as you said, you've got those two examples. One, being fired and no one turns up. And then the other side of it, you've had this experience of, everyone being, sad that you're going and really respecting what you've done. How much of that connects, when you talked about that hubris of, you know, it's not your fault. How common is that with, not just in business, but in life where when you look at life, things seem to be pretty simple to succeed. To have money, it's pretty straightforward. To have good relationships, all that information is there. How much of that hubris plays a part in stopping people having the success that they could have?
Um, I've got a particular view on this. It's not. I don't know that it's very well supported,
Yeah,
but I think it's too easy to look at something and say, "Wow, that's easy,"
yeah,
when in fact it's not.
yeah. Okay.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
And to be a success in business takes a lot of hard work,
Right.
but it's intentional hard work,
Yep.
right? So you can. I think what happens is that there's this. Um, I'm trying to think of the right word to express it. There's this perception that you have to behave like that to
Yep.
achieve that. So
Yep.
you have to, fake it till you make it. So like you have to appear to be successful for people to see you as successful. So, you need to be driving around in the Ferrari, even though you can't afford the Ferrari,
Yeah.
because you think that people might be impressed by you because you're driving around in a Ferrari.
Yeah.
That's just rubbish.
Yeah.
It's just total rubbish. Um, so I think there's humility and hubris,
Mm.
right? I think once you have the humility of knowing that you don't know what you don't know,
Yeah.
and as a 32-year-old, you know everything.
Yeah.
There's no one can. I look back on that. I'm embarrassed
Yeah.
to think how much I thought I knew.
Yeah.
I can just, imagine the people who were, 20 years my old,
Yeah.
my seniors were looking at me, shaking their head, going, young buck, you just know nothing.
Yeah.
Um,
Not only do you know, you tell everyone you know.
and look, that's not to say I don't think it's age.
Yeah.
I think you could be I've met some unbelievably mature and really savvy business people who are, under 25.
Yeah.
But I think what they bring is that humility is, I don't know, I'm here to learn. What do you know? What can I learn from you? They take that away, and then they just have this ability to take that information and convert it into success. So does that make sense?
Yeah, so what you're talking about there is it's the difference between knowing and telling everyone what you know, rather than actually listening to what is actually happening around you and asking questions and learning more from what's around you. Is that where you're
Yeah,
headed?
I got a very good, piece of advice from one of my mentors as I was a 25-year-old sales guy,
Yeah.
and he said, "Steve, you've got two ears, one mouth. Use them in that proportion.
Yeah.
Ask lots and lots of questions, because when they're talking, you're in control." So
Was it
that
difficult making that transition? Because it sounds like that advice you got at 25 and at 32, and I relate to that. I think I was the master at telling people how great I knew everything. Um, was that, how did that transition happen for you to realize?
well, it was in the circumstances that I was in, right?
Mm,
That was I was faced with a scenario that I had no idea how to deal with it, and my ego, right, presented itself and said, "Well, you obviously know what you're doing, because look at the status that you have."
yeah,
And there were people around me who in hindsight, when I look back, when I look back at that, I see that they were actually trying to reach out to me, and I was pushing them away, thinking that, no, I've got this. I can do that. And it was too late. By the time I'd been there 3-4 months, I had really done enough damage there for people not to um, even though I might have tried to recover. It was just not recoverable. So I think ego again, so that you think that you're better than you are, um, and and that causes you to behave differently to that you normally are. And it's not until you have those moments where, you know, you're brought back down to earth. And I'm not talking about tall poppy here. I'm not talking about chopping someone down because they're a success. I'm talking about being aware of your behavior and how that relates to the situation that you're in at the time. Yeah, I'm a slow learner too, by the way.
Well, you mentioned there that, and I guess a lot of people miss that too, is that you're saying there was a lot of people that were offering help, but you didn't want to accept that. And is that, you know, a common thing that you experience in dealing with the people you work with at the moment, where, you know, it's not so much about the knowledge being there, it's about, you know, the horse wanting to drink, so to speak. Is that your experience?
Yeah. So there are business owners who see their value as their business.
Yeah.
And so when I go and talk to them about, you know, a business is worth far more without you as the hub of the business.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
what's that? That's, you know, it's like, what do you mean it's worth more than me? Well, I'm not attacking your ego,
Yeah.
or, you know, the position that you have in the business. I'm just pointing out that a business that relies upon an individual is far less valuable than a business that relies on an individual as a part, as a spoke in the wheel, but not the hub in the wheel. And so it's those business owners who then have that awareness that, so they go, okay, I'm trying to create something that is of value for me. It's my business. I've started this business because I thought I could do it better than where I was.
Yeah.
I'm a good technician.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my value. And as the business grows, it needs additional components to it.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the operations, and then what I find is that the majority of successful entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
so people who have started their business, they're really good at the technical skill that they, you know, they might be an electrician or an architect or a business coach, whatever.
Yeah.
They're good at understanding the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and they're good at relationships, so
Yeah.
business development. That's what's made them successful. That's what's given them the confidence to go out and build the business, because of those, you know, that three-legged stool. Then they start to have to tack on other things like people management and IT and marketing and other aspects of the business.
Yeah.
And it's that broad knowledge of running a business where they start to flounder.
Right.
Right, so they go, I'm just going to let it go. I don't want to know anything about it. I'm going to delegate it to somebody, or I'm going to ask somebody to do it. And then when they don't do it the way that I want it done, they get angry,
Yeah.
or they give it to somebody, and then they they take it back off them and say, "Oh, bugger it, I'll just do it myself." So there's this roller coaster ride that they have emotionally around all of that, and it's not until you have an ability to expand their knowledge base so that they're
Yeah.
comfortable with all of those aspects of the business, and then put in place systems and processes so that they can remain in control.
Yeah.
You know, I hear a lot of people go, you need to let go of control. Rubbish. You need to be in control. It's your business.
Yes.
Right? You are the managing director or the chief executive officer or whatever, however you want to call yourself. You need to be in control, because
Yeah.
people are following you. You're their leader.
Yes.
So if you're not in control, where are we going?
Yeah.
But you can be less controlling, which means that you have to trust the people that you're delegating to, right? So they need to understand what it is that they need to do. So they need to be very clear around what the role that they have. What's the sandpit that they can play in? Can they go outside or inside?
Yeah.
Right? So micromanaging people, that does not help.
Mm.
Give them the skills and knowledge that they need to do the job that they're doing, and then let them do it, and
Yeah.
then support them. So so a long-winded answer to a very short question, I know, but it's creating, and we hear about it now a lot, that psychological safety.
Yeah.
I break it down to something much simpler, is that you as the business owner or leader, you need to care. You need to care about your people. And if you care about them, then what they do is they trust you because you care, and they are then when they do make a mistake, they know that you're going to be there to support them, um, not to be highly critical of them as an individual. Because at the end of the day, if someone who works for you and is in your charge makes a mistake, it's your fault. It's not theirs.
Yeah. That's interesting because those principles, when I think about that and what you're talking about, it's like it applies to being a parent as well. I would imagine I think it does. You talk about those three principles where we go, okay, I've got some technical skill, I've got some accounting skill, and I've got a little bit of people skills. Then they've got it, and they go, well, okay, I can run a business. Well, really, they're just running a job for themselves. And then when you've got to tack on a business, there's a whole raft of different business skills. Is that right? And then they've got to go through that process of learning those business skills. Is that a big step that people have to take back and go, well, I'm an expert in this area? Again, that hubris kicking in, and then realizing, hang on a minute, I've got to start at the bottom, which can be frustrating, I would imagine, for someone that's been really good at what they do in an area, and then stepping into an area that's completely outside their comfort zone and knowledge area. How do you guide people through that process?
Yeah, and Papua New Guinea, when I was in the human resource world in Papua New Guinea, it really taught me some basic principles around how to do that. One of them, ironically, is around benchmarking and salary relativity between salaries. And one of the things that you need to be able to do to measure the size of a job is to determine the technical management knowledge that they have, the thinking environment that they work in, and an accountability. And it's a model that has been, if the people who are listening who are HR professionals will understand this, because large organizations do this to determine the size of a job, right? So that you can determine a salary for that job.
Yeah.
So there's management breadth. So you need to so if you're a general manager in an organization that is $100 million organization, and you're running a $10 million portfolio within that organization, you will have had to have had some technical skills.
Yeah.
You will have spent about between 7 and 10 years working your way through management. So you would have had to been a supervisor, you would have been a team leader, a manager, a senior manager, and then a general manager.
Yeah.
And so that, because you've gone through that, the skill levels that you need to have in each of those roles changes from technical to soft managerial.
Yeah.
Because you have the organization that is enabling you to do that, right? So it's, you've got divisions that are marketing, you've got divisions that are IT, and so the resources that you have. So you need to understand all of those aspects of the business, but you don't have to be the subject matter expert in each of those. And so there's that breadth of knowledge that you need. A business owner who's been running a business for 3 years, if I was talking to them about their business and they were a part of a large institution, right, not on their own, one, they probably wouldn't have got the job.
Yeah.
Right? They wouldn't have the necessary skills and experience, but because they've taken that risk of running their business, right? So they reap the reward of that. But if they were in a large organization and I was their managing director and we would be sitting down having a performance review, right?
Yes.
And I'm talking to them about the performance of their division, and I'm going, I don't understand, Damien, why you're writing the content for your website. I don't understand why you're down packing boxes in your organization. I don't understand why that, because I'm paying you to not do those things. You're paying the people who you have in your organization to do those things. So why is it that you're doing?
Yes.
So so this is the sort of mindset that I try and create with my clients, so that they can understand where their value is in the organization.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my clients have never had that experience before. And so what we do is we create, we put the processes, look at the systems and processes that you currently have. What has made the organization successful? And there's usually 2 or 3 things that have made that business successful. We're not looking at changing it.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of consultants come in and say, "I'm here. Aren't you lucky I'm here? I'm gonna fix it for you." Right? How arrogant is that? Right? I'm gonna fix you.
Yeah.
No, what we're going to do is we're going to understand the business, be a part of what you do, the success that you do.
Yeah.
And what we'll do is we'll add some knowledge and experience in that is missing at the moment.
Yeah.
Transfer that knowledge and experience so that you and your team have, after a 6, 12, 18-month period, you've got enough to be able to sustain that and ongoing have that, right? Now, in the beginning, you don't have the knowledge and experience. So as the business owner, take some time out to educate yourself. Find a mentor, someone who has done not me, right? I'm a consultant. So find someone who is a mentor who has done what you've done.
Yeah.
Right? Taken a small business, built it into a large business.
Yeah.
Go and buy them lunch, dinner, breakfast multiple times. It'll be the cheapest $500 that you've ever spent, because that person will have given you all of their knowledge and experience on the mistakes that they made so that you can learn from that. Then you've got some confidence around when a situation arises, you've got some confidence of, okay, I'm not going to make that mistake. I'll make mistakes, right? So you're never not going to make a mistake, but you can see it coming, and you might make a different mistake. And so you can be a mentor for someone else and tell them about the mistakes that you've made, right? So it's
a rite of passage, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. It's a rite of passage. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And then once, you've got that in combination with, knowing the direction that where you want to go. And so the clients that I work with, they're the ones who have come to that realization that they don't want to be the heart of the business. They want to be the heart of the business. They don't want to be the center of the business. They want a life. They want to be able to do the things that they love so that they can be with the ones that they love. That's the business owner that sees themselves as the value of the business. I'm always going to have to convince them that it's a good idea not to be the center of the business. And that's hard work.
Yeah.
Right. So they go into a nurturing funnel. And when they're ready and they come to that realization, that's that come to Jesus moment where their relationship is breaking down because they're spending all their time at work, or their health is starting to fail, all of these catalytic things that will happen in their life when they go, okay, it's ready. I want to get them before that, right? I want to get them before they get to that point. Doesn't always happen that way.
That's an important point you raised there when you talk about, and this is a broader part of what Share is about. We talk about two of our principles are a responsibility, being responsible for your own actions, and yourself, knowing yourself. From that perspective, when you look at family and in the impact of that, like you say, many times people are putting so much effort into being the business that they're going there, like you say, packing the boxes, that kind of thing. How important is it to get that balance right, so that how important is you yourself? You mentioned in your website, one of your podcasts is about the divorce that you went through. And from that, it sounds like it was a fairly amicable and type thing. But I'm sure you've experienced or know of people that have been through something that's been the opposite. How traumatic is that and affects the business, and how important it is to get that right first before it becomes a disastrous moment?
Yeah, I think it's communication is the key, right? And an awareness. Now, unfortunately, one of the things that you need to do as a startup business or a new business is there's a thing called the stages model. It was developed by Darren Sherlaw in the 20s, and it still exists today. The Sherlaw's Group is a consulting and coaching business. And I give them credit for this because it's not my model, but it is a brilliant model to look at. Yeah. And basically what it does is it says that when you're starting, and this applies to a relationship, a job, or a business, right? It has across all of these. That first stage is you're excited and scared all at the same time.
Yes, definitely a relationship.
So excitement and fear is the same emotion. It's the context that's different.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're scared to go on stage, you're excited. Yes. Right? And so the body is getting you ready. The adrenaline is starting to pump, because it's fight or flight, right? Yeah. So you're wanting to go on stage, you're in front of, thousands of people, and you're scared. And if you're not scared, you're not going to perform well, right? Yes. Because you don't have that. Now, some performers might disagree with me on that, right? I know when I go out in front of thousands of people, I can tell you now there are butterflies. I'm just trying to get the butterflies to fly in formation, right?
Yeah.
So that yes, it's communicating. So know where you are in that relationship. Know that there's going to be that frantic behavior at the beginning. You're going to have to sacrifice something. So if you meet somebody and you've been hanging around with your mates or your girlfriends for years, and then all of a sudden this special person turns up in your life, you're going to have to sacrifice something. You're going to have to sacrifice time because they are going to want to spend some time with you if they feel the same way about you. So you have to give up something to get something. Yeah. And so it's how you communicate that then with your existing friends, how you bring that new person into that ecosystem and communicate with each other. No different in business, right? So if you're currently in that first stage of business, the only way that you get out of it is by an investment.
Yeah.
And that is an investment of your time, definitely money.
Yeah.
Investing into infrastructure, computers, cameras, microphones, buildings, offices, people, all of those things. You have to make that investment to be able to get out of that and go into a more stable, balanced life. So you can't get through that brick wall unless you make that investment. Otherwise, you're continually on the runway. You never take off. And unfortunately, I think people have this misconception that I've started a business and that's it. I'm now up and running and off I go. How hard can it be? Right? It's like, well, I'll tell you what. It's a bit like getting into a relationship. I've got a girlfriend now or a boyfriend now. How hard can it be? Well, friggin' hard, right? Because there are human beings. There's emotions now, right? Yeah. You want to do certain things. They want to do certain things. Sometimes they're the same. Sometimes they're not. In that honeymoon period, everybody loves each other.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Well, but eventually what happens is that the circumstances that you're in change. Yeah. And so therefore you need to be able to communicate with them. You spoke about kids before, like businesses, it's like dealing with staff is a bit like dealing with kids or family. And I agree with that. I don't want it to be misinterpreted as a parent-child relationship because obviously we're dealing with adults. And so it needs to be an adult-to-adult conversation that you're having.
Yeah.
I've got 4 kids, love them dearly. I joke that I've got 4 houses in Australia. Their names are Thomas, Joseph, and Isabel.
Big investments.
The investment that Deb, and I give Deb, my ex-wife, a lot of credit for this. Right, so I was in Papua New Guinea for 10 years, and I was traveling backwards and forwards, but she was basically a single parent during that time, right? And we supported each other through that period of time. And when I came back, there were times when Deb would support me in that. Now, that took a lot of emotional intelligence on both our parts, and we're very fortunate that we got some great guidance along the way.
Yeah.
Probably, was it too late? I don't know. Right.
Yeah.
I keep saying that, we love each other, and we still love each other, but we're just not in love with each other. And so we felt it was better to not be in this relationship for both of our sakes and for our children. It's the same in business. Sometimes you're in partnership with somebody in business. It's not that, and I really find that hard, it's hard, it's heartbreaking when you see a really good business break down because of a partnership that breaks down. And there was probably some things that you could have done, before you got to this point. But with my kids, am I proud of my children all the time? No. No. They screw up like every human being, Are they proud
that
of
was
me?
stupid.
What's that?
I was going to say, yeah, that was stupid, wasn't it? You go around their shoulder and go, maybe there's a lesson for
and I'm sure they look at me, right, and go, they're not proud of me all the time with some of the things that I do.
Yeah.
Right? But do I love them any less when they behave like that? No. Unconditional love.
Yeah.
And that's the message that I try and partake on employers.
Yeah.
Are you proud of the person's behavior at certain times? No. Right? So that's not a performance conversation. That's a disciplinary conversation.
Right.
You would have had a performance conversation way before that, because the performance conversation is around how can I support you? Yes. How am I going to care for you? What do you need to do the job effectively?
Yeah.
Right? So what's the skills that you need? What are the tools that you need? What's do you have enough time to do what I'm asking you to do? And if those are all in place, then I've done my job. It's now up to you to perform at the best of your ability and behave in a way that is in line with the values and purpose of our organization. When you do make a mistake, my job is to find out what did I do wrong? What improvement could I make in making that your performance better? That's a performance conversation, right? So you need to kick the ball, with the inside of your foot, not the outside of your foot. That's my job, right? Coach, manager, however you want to call that. I'm there to support you.
Yeah.
But if you behave in a way that is not acceptable, then what I've done is, because I've cared for you over a period of time, we can have a loving conversation, a caring conversation about your performance. And it means that you're going to understand the context in which it's delivered.
Yeah.
Because you know that I'm there to support you. You just know that right at this moment, you didn't do the right thing. And so we can have a difficult conversation.
Yeah. So it sounds like communication is really a key part to making that work. Does that also connect to, because you talk a fair bit about authenticity, and when you're running a business, which is the same as a leader, whether you're a parent or a business leader, how much, and that connects to a principle of know yourself. How important is it, because you mentioned before about, driving the Lamborghini or whatever to show, oh, I'm such a success. Is that, because that is a common perception. And I did that when I was young. I had to have the second generation mobile phone because I was in a business, and that was the way, it was the thing that paid $2,500 for this phone, which I borrowed, which was stupid. But how important is it to find out what is authentic for you, and then, because you also mentioned in one of your podcasts, you talk about how being authentic attracts actually the right type of client. Do you want to expand on that a bit?
Yeah, that's a really interesting, good question too, by the way.
My moments.
It's probably one of the hardest ones to really know.
Yeah.
And I just think you just know when you're making decisions that are authentic, but you just know when you're making good decisions for the right reasons. And I think you know when you're bullshitting yourself.
Yeah.
You might not might not admit it,
Yeah.
but you know it. I've got no problem driving around in fancy cars.
Yeah.
Right? I've got no. I'm just not a car nut, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
Shame. I watched
The
the last.
overseas viewers won't be getting this, but
No. I watched the beginning of the Bathurst so I could,
Okay.
because I knew it was raining, and I was watching some horrific crashes,
Yeah.
and then I went away for 4 hours and came back and watched the last half an hour of it. Right, that's about the extent of my interest in cars. But I've got clients who, cars are their passion,
Yeah.
and they've got some of the fanciest cars that you've ever seen, but it's the passion of theirs. They're not buying the car because they want to be seen to be,
It's a difference.
the best. They buy the cars because they love the car.
Yeah.
They love that type of car. It might be an 8-cylinder, grunt machine, or some fancy, looking that just looks spectacular.
Yeah.
And
I remember
so,
that it was like Seinfeld was asked, why do you need, it was 100 and something Porsches he had at that time, or whatever the number was. And he goes, I don't need one. I just like them.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
is that the type of authenticity? You're doing it because it's right for you, not because you're
Yeah.
trying to impress people?
Yeah, exactly. You take on clients that you want to work with because they want to work with you, and that's that authentic. So I've taken on clients that I don't want to work with. Probably not in the last 2 years, but
Yeah.
certainly beforehand. And when you're working in a large corporate, you sort of don't have a choice.
Yeah.
So they come to you, want work, you've got to pitch for it, you win it, and you're done. Do you like the person? No. But I've never, I've tried to be as authentic as I possibly can through that relationship. I've never sold anything that that the client doesn't want or need. I've never done that. And that came about as a result of another fantastic mentor that I had. And he said, selling is really simple, Steve. You turn up on time, or if not before time. You use same mentor, 2 ears,
Yeah.
one mouth. And if you don't have the solution that they have or that they need, and you can't deliver it,
Yeah.
then don't BS your way through the sale and tell them you can, but find out how you can help them.
Yeah.
And the final one was, if you don't know, say you don't know.
Yeah. So that authenticity, because we're looking at it not just from a business perspective, but a personal perspective. I mean, it's obviously choosing what's right for you, and that's your personal choice. Is it? I mean, how important is it to like attracting you? Because one of your other podcasts, you talk about surround yourself with like-minded people and ask for and give support and guidance as well. So that seems to be like because you're asking for stuff, which I think is important, but also give as well, which kind of connects to what you're talking there. So is that how important was that to your transition and success as well?
Yeah, and it's look, I'm still learning that one.
Yeah. Aren't we all?
Yeah. It's, again, you attract yourself around with, and synergistically. And I'm a firm believer that that the universe attracts like-minded people. So the reason you're hanging out with the people that you're hanging out with is that you're attracting those people to you because you need that at that moment, or you feel that you need that. Now, that can be a positive and a negative. Like, you can be doing this on a negative basis, right? So you feel as though you need to be in control. So what you do is you attract people to you who are looking for, who are the victim, right? And they're looking for someone. So they feel as they need someone to control them. So what happens is that you get a controlling person together with someone who feels as though they need to be in control. And it's not until that it's not serving your purpose then, right? You realize that this is not serving my purpose. You get some help and support from someone like your organization, or, counselors. I'm talking about, people who are coming in that domestic violence world.
Yeah.
Right? So then you go and get some support and realize that is not serving you. So then you ask for help, then you need to be able to break that, right? So
Yeah.
then there's a nexus that comes. Now, if the other person on the other side doesn't want to,
Yeah.
right, well, then you have to be selfish,
Yeah.
because this is one, it's personal safety to start with, but you need to be able to fulfill your life.
Yeah.
The old Buddhists, fill your cup and fill yours first, and when it's overflowing, you can help others. So, and it's a real tough one, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a philosopher.
Yeah.
I've got philosophical views of the world, but I'm not a the neurosciences of decision making. I'm sort of half. It's a bit like cars, right? I'm half interested in it, but I'll read the first page and the last page and anything in between.
Yeah.
I'm interested, right? So I listen to podcasts for that sort of stuff, right? I try and educate myself around in that to make me a better person.
Yeah.
In that, and it's a tough one, it's and you never get it right. What I'm really and this is a hobby horse of mine. I get on. It's a soapbox, really. The self-help industry that was sort of started in the 70s and 80s, and all of the self-help books that were written at that through that period, and it's still to some degree still being written, presupposes that you're broken,
Yeah.
right? And you're not. You're just
No.
human.
Yeah.
You're just human. At a personal level, my brother he's been suffering mental illness for about 35 years now.
Yeah.
And I was on a phone call with him the other day,
Yeah.
and he was suffering on
Yeah.
that day, right? And he broke down crying, and I broke down crying.
Yeah.
I'm about to cry now, right?
Yeah.
You get this. And I was saying to him, mate, the only difference between you and me is because your body physiologically has got a chemical imbalance. So you need to medicate for that.
Yeah.
And when that's out of whack, this is what happens. The consequences of that out of whackness is that your ups and downs are far more prominent than my ups and downs. I have the same ups and downs that you have on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Like sometimes during the day I'm feeling really low and my energy level is down, and I need to be aware of what was it that caused me. Okay, I didn't go exercising that day, or I'm eating rubbish food, or my mental state is not right. I'm worried about something that is never going to happen. All of those sorts of things. But sometimes we self-medicate, don't we? Like right after a couple of cans.
I used to self-medicate a lot, like even 2 bottles of vodka a day when I was younger.
So
I don't drink now.
we all have our coping mechanisms, right? So the healthier, dear listener, the healthier one is go out and exercise and eat properly, and get support around that. But so I just think that there's that be as much as you're going to care about other people, care about yourself.
Yeah.
Value who you are, and it's hard. We get all of these. I've got a mental. I've got a coach who helps me with my mental state. Now, am I? Because I've not experienced running a small business for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And so there are pressures that are upon me in running that small business. Right? It's lonely. There are experiences that I've yet to have.
Yes.
Why I'm surrounding myself with good people who have done this before. So some of them are mentors that are giving me that experience. They're consultants. Some are coaches who I'm buying their services to support me, because I know that I can't do this on my own.
Yeah. So with that, surrounding yourself with like-minded people, one of my I don't know where it come from, but I'm stealing it as mine now. Favorite quotes is, no amount of skill will fix a poor partner choice. Now, I must say, I learned that way too late in life, and it applies both in business and in personal areas, where I look at it and there's, area, like when you talk about that like-minded person, there's times where I've been looking at it going, I'm trying to force a relationship, trying to make something work where that person doesn't want to, it's just not working. And that's not to say that person is a toxic person. We're just not gelling. And it's been the same in business as well, where some business partners have had, we just didn't gel. We thought we did until we got into business, and then we're not gelling. And from that perspective, how important it is, and I'll relay another story. A plumbing company there was 3 directors, and they went from a $15 million business to a $10 million business because they culled all the clients that were difficult clients. They went from working 7 days a week to working 5 days a week, and making more money at the end of the day. They made more profit. Now, when you come back to that like-minded person, I mean, it's not, and it's just, can you talk through the process of how we make those decisions going, it is important for you to do that, but it's important for them too, and everybody else to be in that harmonious relationship. Does that make a big difference?
I'll break it into like there's the personal side of a relationship with a partner, life partner, as opposed to a business relationship with a business partner. They are similar, but because one is more subjective, like the personal relationship is this, why do you love somebody? Can explain it, right? You can't, right?
No.
It's just something that's there.
Yeah.
Why do you have friendships with people? I don't know, because I like them.
Yeah.
Right? Explain it. You can't.
Yes.
Whereas in business, it's a little bit more objective.
Yeah.
Why? Because there is typically money involved or value involved. And when you have that, it's far more emotive, right? And needs to be fair in how you divide that up, right? It's a bit like when you're divorcing and you've got kids and assets, right? It's difficult.
Yeah.
Right? So partly why people have prenups, right? So what and that's, you go, well, that's not a good, I don't trust you. Well, you can look at it as saying, I love you now. Let's organize. Let's never get divorced. But if we do get divorced, let's agree now on what we're going to do with that.
Yeah.
So that, and if we can't agree on that now, whilst we're in love, how on earth are we going to agree on it when we split up, right? I take that same philosophy into business. So if you're going into business or you're in business with a business partner, preferably before you go into business, negotiate your exit strategy now.
Yeah.
So that means, if we grow the business, how do we account for our a lot of businesses, when they start, there's a lot of sweat equity involved. So I'm putting a lot of my time and effort into it, not being paid, hoping that something will come out of it at the end.
Yes.
Well, how are you recording that?
Yeah.
You need to record that. Right? Because it is of value, because the whole thing falls apart and there are assets involved, right, that you can draw upon. You need to be able to withdraw that asset from as sweat equity, right? Yeah. If the business grows to a particular side and there's a lopsided investment of partnerships, right? So I'm only putting in, we've got it to now.
Yeah.
I'm talking to a client who's also a friend, about his business, and the issue that they have at the moment is that there's a partnership that has got the business to a point. One partner is reluctant to move it on, and my friend is wanting to. So there's potential investors in other areas. So how do we navigate our way through that now? Because they haven't. Because they haven't had that conversation until now, it's a far more difficult conversation than had they had it 3-4 years ago, and establish what the ground rules are, what's the valuation formula that we're going to use, so that when we do break up, we're really clear, right? There's going to be some, potentially some challenges around some minor details, but by and large, we know that when we do break up, and inevitably, like death, right, a business is going to either, you're going to get to a point where you're going to sell your equity in that business,
yes,
or you let it die on the vine, right?
yes, yeah. So most,
Did I answer the question? I'm not sure.
yeah, no, it's one of those things about, from that perspective, we're getting to the nutshell of aligning yourself with people that are like-minded makes your life a lot easier than trying to force a situation, and being aware of where you are at the start and that exit strategy, no matter which way you go about it. Because at some point, as much as certainly from a business perspective, the whole idea is to roll on. And I have a friend who has we mentioned him earlier before we started. He's actually no longer the face of the business, even though it's perceived he is as an actor doing the radio ads. His son's running the business.
Yeah.
People don't know that. I wanted to touch on that as well. Like in one of your other podcasts is you say life hands you moments, then it's up to you to choose the life that you want. From that perspective, I think about Shakespeare, and in Hamlet, where he talks about nothing is good or bad, thinking makes it so. It sounds like you're heading in that space where events happen. Shit happens in life, sometimes good, sometimes bad. How important is the meaning you put to those events to making the most out of it?
Oh, it's huge. Context is everything, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like, and yeah, that's where you do need to be very aware of your emotions, your personal emotions, and not get too excited about something, excited enough, and not be too sad or depressed about something. Be sad enough, to actually acknowledge that it's there. Again, I'm not a coach.
Yeah.
I don't coach people.
Mm.
Part of what I do, I'm a consultant, right? So I come in and help businesses, but part of what I do is coaching. Yes. Because there are these mindset things that in this environment, in this situation, this is what needs. This has been my experience.
Yeah,
this is an area that you could work down and asking questions. So I would bring in a coach in that. If it warranted it, I would bring a coach in to support the business, because it's not something that I do as a product, if you like. Right? Yeah. It's a part of the service that I deliver, but I'm not a coaching. I don't have a coaching product. So I think having your balance in life.
Yeah.
When you get your business to a point and you're happy with that business, I love how you said that, the plumbing business, they were at 15, now they're 10, working less and making more.
Yeah.
And this is again one of the fallacies I think around business is that you need to grow your business, right? Yeah. I call it my product service that I offer is called the Scale to Success solution. Yeah. And everybody says, oh, you want to, so their natural assumption is scaling is growing, right? Yeah. I'm going, well, yes, it could be, but it could be scaling the amount of time that you have.
Yes.
Of your own time.
Leverage
it might be
is
scaling.
Important.
What's that?
Leverage is important.
Yeah, it might be scaling the value of your employees to the value of the business. It might be scaling your community involvement or the philanthropic view that you have. Right? Yeah. It's your solution, and it's what you put on it. And so I've actually talked business owners out of growing their business, because when we've looked at it, when we've gone through the analysis, we go, you know what? If we just shift the focus a little bit over here, put some systems and processes in place, look at our client base and who we want to attach ourselves to, right? We can actually find that the bottom line is a 15% improvement in the bottom line, and that enables you to go and play golf 3 days a week
Yes.
because that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Right? So it doesn't, or it might be that you want to only, you want to develop a product
Yeah.
that you just haven't had the time to do, and this gives you the opportunity to do that.
And that comes back to what you're talking about, being your authentic self, knowing what is right for you. So maybe that might be a way of putting it as well. An example you mentioned about that, playing golf, it reminded me of or was a friend of a friend who has a small business, turning over, I think, $2.5 million a year, 3 employees. He goes to the business probably twice a week for only half a day each time, and the rest of his time is playing golf. I mean, is that really important for you to know what is right for you? Because, I mean, if you're chasing something that's not right for you, it's going to cause distress, wouldn't it, in your own body?
Yeah. So again, the last 10 years I was in PNG. One of the jobs that I had there was a divisional manager in a construction company, and I had 120 staff and revenue of around about $5 million. When I went there, the business was a basket case.
Yeah.
Right? And it was a basket case only because it had been ignored for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And my job was to make it profitable, or at least get it to a profit level. It was losing money, right?
Yes.
So within 3 months, all we did was put systems and processes in place and empowered the people that were there to be able to do the job.
Yeah.
And our profits increased by 50%.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, well, our losses were reduced by 50%. It's all context, right?
Just moving the negative.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not talking negatives in this meeting.
Yeah. The CFO taught me that trick, right? But over a period of time, like, I'm a mad keen golfer, right?
Yeah.
But I was working crazy hours. I was working 6 days a week, 18 hours a day, and I knew that if I didn't do that, I wouldn't know the business because I'd never been in property before.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know the people. I wouldn't know the clients. I built that, and I'm still building relationships with people, and I'm still playing golf 1.5 days a week. But I got that business to a point where I was the general manager. I was spending all of the time that I needed to be spending on the business development part, but that was part of my job, and building relationships with people. And I just happened to spend, 1.5 days a week on the golf course building relationships with people.
Yeah.
Right? So that was really important to me, right?
Yeah.
And it gave me joy. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done the job.
Yeah. How important is it as a leader, whether you're a leader, a business leader of the home, so to speak, or children, to be selective in what you share with them and where you get your advice? And I'm thinking of this, like, I remember looking back, and as a parent now, I look at back what my mum did, and she was a single mum after my parents split up. Now, I know there was financial worries. As an adult, I know that. And I think of a number of things. There's all these different things that she must have been worried about. We never knew as kids, and we felt safe and secure, which I think has helped me and do the things I could do as a kid because I wasn't worried about that kind of thing. How important is it as the leader of a business, or even personally, to know that segregation? And what do you think is that segregation?
Yeah, another great question. I think, and again, I don't have all the answers here, but my approach, this is how I deal with it, is that I need I need the information first. Right. So I need to be clear on what the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
So I go about collecting all of the data. And I know the people who are quick starts, or the high D on the disc profile, they're just eyes are rolling, right? Find some, so in a personal situation, so the responsibility is yours. Then I know you don't like doing it, but if you're the leader of the family, if you're the leader of your business, and you don't like doing something that is critical to the success of your business, then you won't have a business for very long.
Yeah.
Because it's going to fail, right? Because you're not paying attention.
Same as you won't have a family very long.
You know, the family anymore, right? Like it's not rocket science, this stuff, but
Yeah.
it's but it's hard, right?
Yeah.
Because you're doing stuff that you don't naturally do. And
Yeah.
so that, for me, it's around educating yourself. Now, that takes some time, and there might be times when you just don't have the time, right? So
Yeah.
so then you bring somebody in to help you, a counselor, someone to support you in that space. But assuming that you've got some time to be able to deal with this, so build that knowledge base. Then you can make then you build you put a strategy in place. So,
Yeah.
okay, I know what my problem is. I know where we want to go. What's my strategy going forward?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the plan, right? So then you've got goals and objectives.
Yeah.
And each of those is, an objective is just a step along the way to achieve the goal, which is a part of the plan.
Yeah.
So now you've got all of that in place, and as a leader, now you know where you're going. And along the way, what you need to do then is bring people in who are a part of that solution.
Yeah.
So if it's your partner, I would think that you would have very early in the piece communicated with them about, this is the problem, this is how you're feeling, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah.
So collecting a lot of data, a lot of thinking.
Mm.
What are the emotions that we have around that? So you need to do that as parents.
Yeah.
As an adult parent, you need to do that, and then bring the children into the conversation, depending on their age and whether they can be a part of the solution. So if it's a financial issue,
Yes.
right, and the kid always wants, lollies when they go to the shop, or they want the latest i14 thing because their friends have got it.
Yeah.
Well, that's a conversation that you need to have around financial responsibility. And so here's a book on financial responsibility, or here's a podcast, or here's I'll give you this, but
The
you need
dishes
to
to
earn
wash.
it. What's that?
Here's the dishes to wash.
Here's the dishes to wash. Yeah, here's accountability.
Yeah.
Here's risk. Here's a reward for effort.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, well, then what happens is that they become dependent upon you,
Yeah.
and they can't think for themselves, and they have no value of money.
Yeah.
So if you're keeping this away from your employees, and again, you're solving everyone's problem, well, then what's going to happen is that they're going to continually come to you for a solution.
Yeah.
Now, what you've
Yeah.
done is, if you know what the solution is,
Yeah.
then you roll it out, and people, here it is. But I've never been in a situation as a manager or an owner of a business where I've had all of the answers.
Yeah.
So I know some of the answers, and then I bring everybody in and go, okay, here's the problem that we've got. Here's what I think. What do you think?
Yeah.
And then what we can do is we can combine that, workshop it out, right? And then come to a solution, and then everybody agrees with that. And you might have 5 or 6 iterations of that.
Yes.
You test it, didn't work, and that's dumb. Don't, for God's sake, don't build a system around an idea, right?
Yes.
Build a system around something that's proven. Otherwise the web developers will love you, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So you get to that point, and then what happens is that they've bought in.
Yes.
They're a part of the solution, and then you can delegate that and say, great, okay, what we need to do is we need to roll this out. That's you're now the project champion for that particular area, because that's your skill set, it's your area. I don't need to be involved in it. We've set the strategy out. All I need, tell me what you need. Do you need money? Do you need people? Do you need resources? What is it that you need to be able to do that? And then I'll support you as the leader in that environment, right? So and it doesn't happen overnight. I've got a problem. Right. And I want it fixed now. Can't help you. Like, it's not an itch.
The bigger the organization is, the longer it takes to filter through.
Yeah. Or, look, sometimes you can just get this stroke of genius, and you go, well, if we did that, then this will happen. Great. Okay. Problem goes away.
We got everyone to do it then. So, that's a different conversation.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that sounds like we're connecting to, because one of your other podcasts is understanding your emotions has a huge financial benefit. Is that where, is that where we're heading with that? Is you need to control your emotions, that then that leads to extra profit. Is that fair to say?
It's probably a emotional awareness.
Yeah.
So where what and this is the emotional intelligence, understanding who you are, and that, that's contextually, authenticity, caring, loving, all of those emotions that indicate your behavior. I don't have a problem with people being angry,
Yeah.
right? But just be angry in a respectful way,
Yeah.
right? Don't, if you're disappointed because someone is behaving in a particular way and you're not happy,
Mm.
that's okay, right? But
Yes.
you need to deal with it in context,
Yes.
right? And every time when I've been angry because
Yes.
someone hasn't done something, and when I've dug into it,
And they can do it and they just didn't.
but 9 times out of 10 it's me.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't instruct them the way I said something
Yeah.
because I'm frantic, or I'm running around and
Yeah.
and I'm telling you something, and why didn't you get,
Yeah.
why didn't you read my mind?
Yeah.
Right? Well, because I'm not a mind reader, right? So I told you to do something. I told you in 3 words,
Yeah.
right? A complex task,
Mhm.
and you didn't do it the way that I wanted you to do it. Now I'm angry, and they're sitting there going, well, I'm confused. I don't know what you're talking about here. So typically, the first thing you do is look at yourself. Right.
Mm.
So are you communicating effectively?
Yeah.
Pointing one finger at one person, at someone, is pointing 3 fingers back at you.
Yeah.
So all of those things. And I get, when you're in business and things are racing around you, it's hard to be calm,
Yeah.
and you're gonna screw up, right? And when you do, that's when once you've done that and you go, oh gee, that was me, right?
Yeah.
Have the respect to then go and apologize to the person who you were angry at,
Yeah.
right? Not not so that they can go, ha ha, told you so, but just you're respecting at a human to human nature. Hey, listen, Damien, I'm sorry when I blew up the other day.
Yeah.
Not making excuses, right?
Mm.
But when I blew up the other day, that was disrespectful of me,
Yeah.
you, and I apologize for that.
Mhm. Yeah. That leads into one of your other podcasts that really stood out for me was a strong mental health is an edge you can have over your competition. Now, obviously, that's a business bent on that, but how important is that strong mental health to not just business success, but life success?
Yeah. The great conversation I had with Dave Shillington, who's this burly rugby league player, retired now, but played for the Roosters, Queensland, Hoi Tui, and the New South Welshman. And he was a really good player too. Played for Australia, and he spoke of when when he was playing for the East, Freddie Fittler came, and he'd sort of withdrawn from the team. So David had withdrawn from the team
Mm,
a little bit. Freddie noticed that,
yeah,
went up to him and said, "Are you okay?" And bravado.
yeah,
No, I'm good. I'm 6'2". I'm meant to be bashing down doors. I'm good.
yeah,
And Freddie goes, "Oh, okay, all right. Well, just in case, I have a mental coach, someone who helps supports me. Um, uh, I'm not broken, right?
yeah,
But I just need sometimes to have someone to speak to about it, who's not in my coaching team, who's not my partner, who's not related to me, just someone who I can go off and do that to keep your mental awareness, so
mm,
someone else giving you support around that and just supporting you, right? So when you have that mental clarity,
yeah,
and your mind's not a fog,
mm,
and that then relates into how you communicate with your staff calm in a calm way, how you communicate, how your business communicates with your client base, the energy that you're putting out, it it becomes a fantastic, what I call an employer of choice.
Yes.
Right. So you are then the product of choice. You are then the employer of choice. You are the person of choice. People like hanging around you, and that starts with you. So getting really clear on having that quietened mind, and then that relays out to that filters out to everybody around you. And I know there are times when I look around and I go, what's going on? Things are not going the way that I had planned them to go. And then I'll
That
stop
happens
and
more often than not.
yes, yeah, exactly. And then I'll stop and go, right, okay, it's you.
Yeah.
I'm frantic, or I'm rushing, or I'm making decisions that are not based on, it's not that they're based on information, but I'm making the wrong decision at the wrong time because I'm rushing.
Yeah.
And I just don't have. I'm trying to get too many things done, right?
Yeah.
And so, I'm a fan of the 3 rock principles. Made famous by Stephen Covey. The 3 big rocks. Every day, you just pick 3 things that have to be done today, and they're at the top of the agenda. So make sure during that day that you have spent those, time getting those 3 things done. I'm also a great fan of I think it's called I always get the name wrong, the Pomodori method.
Yeah.
But basically, you turn everything off at between 25 and 30 minutes.
Yeah.
All your notifications, phone, close the door, and you just focus on an activity. And for me, it's writing blogs and getting content ready for podcasts.
Yeah.
That's where I need that focus time, because I just don't have the time. And then at the end of that period, you go, how did I go? I rate myself 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm a 6 because I got up and made a cup of tea or a coffee, or was looking at my phone all the time, distracted. And other times I'm a 9 and I'm in the zone, and I get to the end of the 20 minutes, the alarm goes off. I repeat it because I'm on a roll, right? And so getting in that zone doesn't happen often, but that's what you're aspiring to do.
Is that, like, from a strong mental health perspective, it's having that quiet time? Is that what you'd suggest?
Yeah, slow down to speed up.
Yeah.
Slow down to
Sharpen
speed
your
up.
axe.
Sharpen it, yeah. That's the 7th habit. Yeah, sharpen the saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We've established that I'm a mad king golfer, right? I'm not a very good golfer. I'm sort of I'm between 13 and 18, right? So I'm somewhere in amongst that.
Okay, my golf is in the category of whack 4-letter word.
Well, yeah, that 4-letter word is because golf was already taken, right?
Exactly. And it's not 4.
It's not 4, exactly. So that it's when you're in that zone, right, is because your mental state, like, you are so calm, and it's almost like you're in the matrix.
Yeah.
Right. So you can see everything coming, everything's going slow, but in fact, in reality, it's going faster than time,
Yeah.
and I said, it doesn't happen always, but things like, I'm not a meditator.
Yeah.
Right. So, but some people love meditation, that 30 minutes of mindset. I'm a journaler.
Yeah.
I'm not consistent enough, but
Mhm.
I like, and I'm a reader of of positive
Mm.
positive messages.
Yeah.
Right? So that I'm not a Pollyanna.
Mhm.
Right? I'm a realist,
Yeah.
but I don't. I'm half full, not half empty.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's taken me, 67 years to get here.
It's funny how we learnt that. It's like on the weekend I was out doing some gardening, resowing oversowing the lawn, and I deliberately didn't put on any music, and just paid attention to my thoughts as I was raking, and shifted them. So that was
Yeah.
It's taken me 50 years to get to that.
Yeah. And sometimes not having, so sometimes going out for a walk, and
Mm.
people go, listen to podcasts, well, sometimes go out for a walk and just listen to the birds.
Yeah.
Be connected.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the services that you offer and how people can connect with you?
Yep, it's a pretty simple methodology, and I created it. It's called the Scale to Success solution,
Yep.
and I created it as a result of the years of experience that I had. There were
Hmm.
a lot of programs, a lot of systems that I could have invested in, and when I looked at them, they weren't very much different to what I already use. So it's a really simple process. It's the first part is called the deep dive analysis,
Hmm.
and that's where I spend time with the business owner and their staff. Depending on the business, might be 2, 3 days. So I actually go into a lot of detail. We're
Yeah.
looking at, we're looking at your emotional feelings towards each of the functional areas of your business. So we look at sales, marketing, operations, finance, systems, IT, legal,
Mhm.
and any specialist areas that we have. And then my questioning is around how are you feeling
Yeah.
about each of those areas. So give it a rating of 1 to 10.
Hmm.
So I feel like it's operating at a 4. Where would you like it to be?
Hmm.
6, 12, 18-month period. I'd like it to be an 8.
Yes.
Great. Okay, we have now some context. I think it's a 7 and I'd like it to be an 8.
Hmm.
Great. It's a 9 and I'm happy with a 9. Okay, great. All right. So now we have some emotional connections in terms of where you feel your business is at.
Yes.
We then look at the importance and urgency of that functional area
Hmm.
to the success of the project, which is the business performance or business improvement.
Yeah.
And so what we're looking at is then how do those from an importance and urgency. So is it important but not urgent? So
Yeah.
it's strategic. Is it important and critical? So important and urgent. So it becomes sort of reactive or tactical that we have to get it done.
Yes.
And then we look at what resources you have. So time, money, people, to be able to throw at it, because it does require an investment, my
Yes.
time, but also the other people
Yeah.
around you. So that might require input from a legal specialist, from an accountant,
Yeah.
from maybe the IT people around systems and
Yes.
design. But all of this forms a part of the project plan that I produce. So that's the first step, the deep dive analysis. So
Hmm.
you get a report, which is a detailed report, depending on the size of the organization. It can be anywhere from 10 to 30 pages long.
Yeah.
And I'm not using 14 font, right, to make it sound
Yes.
important.
Lots of
But
pictures.
it is detailed, and we look at we look at what documentation you've got, what systems and processes are documented, whether you've got job descriptions, whether you've got policies and procedures in place. So that's that first part. As a part of that report, we then produce a project plan, and if we are able to give it some context around cost,
Yeah.
that's not always able to, because it might be a little vague in the direction that we're going, but we sort of we can generally give sort of some estimation of where we think the investment is needed to be done over the life of the project. And then the business owner then makes a decision at that point and says, yes, that's affordable,
Mm.
and we can get going, or no, I didn't want to invest that much. And then it's like, okay, well, that's great. What we can do is we can then focus on the really important things that need to be done that will give you leverage.
Yeah.
And then the idea is to improve the profits from that, and then once we've done that, reinvest those profits back into the next part of the business. Overarching all of that, so that's sort of that's the process. And then if the client wants to run with that themselves, that's entirely up to them. They have that then as a tool that they can do it on a DIY basis.
Yeah.
But most of my clients then would engage me on an ongoing basis to help them, and I'm the bridge between them and their staff. So I'm the fractional general manager.
Yeah.
And I work with them on a, typically it's 1 day a week for a
Yes.
period of time. So I'm actually in there working with the staff, running leadership management programs to upskill them, in particularly around the soft skills area. So that's how that works. That service works. The idea for me is at the end of whatever the project plan is, there are 2 areas that I focus on. One is I don't want to change the business. So whatever's made you successful to date, everything that we do in this program of improvement has to augment that.
Yes.
It can't disrupt it.
Yeah.
Because that's what made you successful.
Yes.
And this is the mistake that I see a lot of consultants in this space make, is they can't try and change the organization.
Yeah.
We're not changing it. You're successful. Have a look around you, right? And we don't need to change it. But you're probably not, you're running on 4 cylinders, not 6.
Yeah.
So how can we do that? The other thing is, what's the purpose behind it? So not the purpose of the business, but the purpose of the improvement. So what are you, business owner, what are you looking to achieve out of this? Are you looking to scale? And we've had this conversation, I've talked about it earlier. Are you looking to scale back your involvement? Are you looking to be focused on a particular area because you've got something that you want to achieve?
Yeah.
Are you looking at leaving a legacy?
Yes.
Are you looking at making a community, higher in community engagement? Is there something? Is there a philanthropic project that you just want to have time and money to be able to do? What is it that you want?
Yeah.
Right? And then that's my focus then, so that I'm working for them.
Yeah.
So it's not my agenda, it's their agenda. How can I help you get to that point? And when we get there, it is so satisfying. It is just like I smile to I just cannot stop smiling when my clients come to me and they go, "We did it.
Yeah.
And we got there." I go, "Yeah, we did. It was good fun, wasn't it?"
Because it sounds like, from what I know, a lot of people start business with an idea and then they get stuck in the rut of running the business that controls their life, their marriage falls apart, the kids hate them, all that kind of stuff. It sounds like you bring all that back together so that get back on that original path. Does that sum it up?
Yeah. It's we all do things hopefully for good reasons. And there was a passion at the beginning. It was like, I think I can do this better.
Yes.
Maybe maybe not, right? So again, really, you think you can do better than that?
Well, there's also a security that comes from having a well-run business as well.
Yeah, it's like there's so many good things of being in business for yourself, right? And I encourage everybody to investigate it. Not everybody is designed to have a business for themselves. Some people they're better off being an employee, right? They're risk averse. They don't they don't want to have all of the ups and downs of business. And some of us, the crazy ones, right, who want to make an impact in the world, right, and do things better than they've been done. We're the crazy ones that are running the business. And so that was the original reason. You get stuck in running the business, and so I help you get unstuck from that, and whatever it is that where you've got to and where you want to achieve is sort of getting the mud off your boots and being able to tread down that path and have some fun. The biggest thing I struggle with this a lot. So I want to bring joy back into my life, and I want to bring joy back into my mission in life is to make the advice that business owners get appropriate and the right advice at the right time. My vision is for businesses to be fun and enjoyable.
Yes, definitely. And how do people contact you? What's the best way to reach out to you?
On our website, www.inspiringbusiness.net.
Yeah.
So that's all one word. We're rebuilding the website at the moment, so what you will see in a couple of weeks' time will be different to what is there, but the connections are all the same. Email is on the website, or steve@inspiringbusiness.net. LinkedIn, you can find me on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn, and so connect with me there. And we offer an exploration call. So on the website, there's a connection to an exploration call. It's either a 30-minute or 1 hour conversation, and most of the time, people walk away, even if they don't engage me, they walk away with some value.
Yeah, beautiful. And Steve, I like to wind up the show with a one last thing, or a several last. What are some key things, or one key thing that you would, it can be anything at all, that you would leave people with? What is your key wisdom or wisdoms that you'd like to share to wind us up?
Yeah, it sort of aligns with my mission and vision, and that is to care for yourself and care for others. And so that's not easy to do, right? So it's a big ask, particularly in the business world, because it can be cutthroat, and competition is there, but competition is also good, right? It helps you. It helps you grow, and you can be competitive but not ruthless. And so caring, I that would be and I don't want it to be esoteric either, right? So you can care for yourself, you can be loving of yourself and loving of others, and you can do that in business and be successful at the same time.
Beautiful. Great advice. Steve, it's been wonderful having you on the show. I've really enjoyed it. Hopefully we can have you back again sometime in the future. Thanks for joining us.
Damien, it's been an honor, and really, as a podcaster, the questions that you asked me, thank you so much, because it's given me the opportunity to be on the other side of the microphone.
Thank you for being part of the Share.care community and helping people around the world prosper. You're creating a bigger pie for everyone to share. The more people contributing to the world being a better place, the better the world becomes, for others and for you.